Do you think they would drop a bomb or launch a missile on Israel?
Wolf, my judgment is you got to take everybody's word seriously in this world. You can't just hope for the best. You got to assume that the leader, when he says that he would like to destroy Israel, means what he says.
About your dad's former Secretary of State, James Baker. In his 1995 memoir, Mr. Baker said he opposed ousting Saddam Hussein in the Persian Gulf War in 1991 because he feared that such action might lead to an Iraqi civil war, to criticism from many of our allies, and to an eventual loss of American support for an occupation.
He was writing before September the 11th, 2001. And the world changed that day, Wolf.
But Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11.
Excuse me for a minute, please. The world changed that day because we had to deal with threats. No question, Saddam Hussein did not order the attacks. I strongly stand by my decision to remove Saddam Hussein.
And you don't look back with any regrets?
I regret when people lose lives. But, and presidents don't get to do do-overs. This is a struggle not between religions, and that's what people have got to understand. It's a struggle between people who use religion to kill and those of us who are for peace. And to the extent that that issue gets muddied up, it confuses people. And so the clarity helps people get back to the real issue we face. People say this is a struggle of civilizations. I strongly disagree with that. I think this is a struggle for civilization. And to the extent that the Pope clarified the issue, I think it helps those of us who are trying to make it clear to the Muslim world in particular, we're not fighting Islam.
Is it a mistake to use that phrase, Islamic fascists?
That's what I'm referring to. I'm referring to extremists and radicals, totalitarians. The point I was making is these people share a common ideology that represses women, doesn't give people the right to dissent, that has got their narrow view of the freedom of religion. We're not fighting Islam.
Is it a mistake to use that phrase, Islamic fascists? But Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11.
Excuse me for a minute, please. We're not fighting Islam.
Is it a mistake to use that phrase, Islamic fascists?
I regret when people lose lives.
All through the media, pundits and politicians are telling falsehoods, which manipulate the public into accepting a confrontation with Iran.
This Mohammed Jihad, whatever his name is, he's a bad guy. He's a very bad guy.
I'm not saying
explicitly he wants to wipe Israel off the map.
That's not true. What he said was, the Imam said this regime occupying Jerusalem must vanish from the page of time. All through the media, this lie about him supposedly saying he wants to wipe Israel off the map has been spread. In fact, media outlets like CBS with their show 60 Minutes have suppressed what the Iranian president has said clearly. This is the part they broadcast where the president said, "I think that the Israeli government is a fabricated government." The part in yellow here is what they omitted from the telecast. The reason I know what they said was the whole video was shown on C-SPAN, but an edited version was shown on 60 Minutes, and they omitted everything that you see here, where he talks about what a solution is. The solution is democracy. He explains that Palestinian people to participate in a free and fair referendum to express their views. And he talks about peace, that the solution serves the cause of a durable peace. These are facts that 60 Minutes didn't want you to know. They just edited out. This is the way journalists behave in America. People need to understand this. There's a history of the media fabricating statements and suppressing statements. Arianna Huffington writes about talking with Wesley Clark and his warning that there's a lobbying effort to put pressure on the president to attack Iran. Eric Alderman writes about this problem too. And this was one of the things that Eric Alderman talked about on the Blogging Heads segment he did. He quoted Wesley Clark. Quote was in response to a question, how does he know the lobbying effort is going on? Wesley Clark said, "You just have to read what's in the Israeli press. The Jewish community is divided, but there is much pressure being channeled from the New York money people to the office seekers."
Wesley Clark used probably some incautious language when he said that New York money men, which many people interpret to mean Jews, were pushing us to war with Iran. However, Jews in New York who have a lot of money are in fact pushing us to war with Iran. It was a factually true statement. But AIPAC is pushing us to war with Iran. AIPAC is the reason that no Democrats are coming out strongly against war with Iran. AIPAC's funding is extremely wealthy American Jews. And AIPAC is pushing for war with Iran. So when people go to Democratic politicians and they say, listen, I don't want you getting out in front and opposing war with Iran, particularly since you have national aspirations, they don't say it in the New York Times.
If that is happening, and then I think, Clark is, his comment was more interesting than it was anti-Semitic, certainly.
Well, the problem is that people like Abe Foxman and your friend Marty Peretz and their friend Alan Dershowitz have made it impossible to discuss this issue, because if you bring it up, you're accusing. David Brooks said that the use of the word neoconservative was ipso facto anti-Semitic.
Ironically,
that smears everyone. But the fact is it made it impossible to discuss the role that Israel plays in American foreign policy, because if you bring it up, you're an anti-Semite, or you're a self-hating Jew, as I supposedly am.
I received this book some years ago from a man named Andrew Hurley called Israel and the New World Order, and I read it very carefully because I want nothing that's anti-Semitic in this ministry. I will not allow anything that's anti-Semitic or racist of any kind, because God is not a racist, and neither can we be a Christian racist, because in the book of Acts it says God has made out of one blood all the people on the face of earth. All the people come out of one blood. That's Adam and Eve. How can you be a racist? Flesh will not inherit the kingdom. No, flesh can do nothing of profit to you, my friends. You must be born again in spirit and truth. John 3, verse 3. But Andrew he says that Israel and its leadership and the powerful influence it has with its money and its banking around the world, its corporate influence, that they control all the world's capitals, and they control the United States. And it is their goal to set up a new world order. Media holdings. This is why they're able to so influence public opinion around the world, and especially in the United States, because the United States is basically the proxy for the Jewish Illuminati. Here it's interesting. This is from a recent issue of Time magazine, and it talks about the many network and other media executives throughout the world. All of these people, I believe every man here, practically except one, is Jewish. There's old Ted Turner. He's the only one who is not Jewish, but he sold his network, CNN, to a Jewish billionaire firm. Now, my finger was covering up there. You'll see this picture right here is a man named Edgar Bronfman Jr. He's the son of Edgar Bronfman Sr. that we just talked about. And he was head of AOL, Time Warner, the largest online computer corporation in the world. Time Warner, the largest cable network in the world. And also he's connected with MCA Universal Studios, one of the largest movie studios in the world, etc. Movie studios, newspapers, magazines, newspapers. These people tell us what to think.
He said there were three main reasons for going to war in Iraq: weapons of mass destruction, the claim that Iraq was sponsoring terrorists who had attacked us on 9/11, and that Iraq had purchased nuclear materials from Niger. All three of those turned out to be false.
First, just if I might correct a misperception, I don't think we ever said, at least I know I didn't say, that there was a direct connection between September the 11th and Saddam Hussein. We did say that he was the state sponsor of terror. I was very careful never to say that Saddam Hussein ordered the attacks on America.
Then that must have been a different George W. Bush who gave the State of the Union address on January 28, 2003.
Saddam Hussein aids and protects terrorists, including members of Al-Qaeda. Secretly and without fingerprints, he could provide one of his hidden weapons to terrorists or help them develop their own. Before September the 11th, many in the world believed that Saddam Hussein could be contained.
Don't let them trick us into another war.